Hey guys, welcome to my brother's rally. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. All right, guys. So I was watching Piers Morgan, and there was a debate about Zoran Mamdani. On the panel, it was Jillian Michaels, Cenk Uygur, Stephen Miller's wife, Katie Miller, and a gentleman by the name of Omar. And when I tell you this panel went off the rails, let's get into it.
Like, if you don't like the things that he's saying about Gaza or Hamas or the Jews, don't double down by saying those things about him being Muslim. That's my opinion.
He's never said anything about the Jews. We should just be clear about the fact that he's never said anything about the Jews. That's a way that it's just a phrase that gets imposed on him because people can't find anything to condemn. Yeah, but that's not saying anything about the Jews. Whatever his views are on Hamas, that's a completely different conversation. We should just use words carefully and to be like, if we're going to have a constructive discourse, it's important not to put words in other people's mouths. So anytime you hear Mamdani and you hear the phrase, the Jews followed by it, that's typically a smear because Mamdani has never expressed any views that are anti-Semitic. If his political views about Israel and Palestine are problematic, let's debate the merits of those without suggesting that he's saying something about the Jews when he never did.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Omar makes an amazing point. If you pay attention to any person on these shows, from CNN to Piers Morgan, people will just outright say they don't like some of the things that he said about Jews. But then when you go in to ask them, what has Zoran said about the Jews? They will say, well, he hasn't condemned Hamas. What does that have to do with the Jews? Well, he has horrible things to say about Israel. Jewish people are not Israel. Israel is a state. Israel is a government. It is not the Jewish faith.
What
I think that's fair enough, Omar. Okay.
I was going to say he has a rap song where he celebrates the Holy Land Five, who have gone to jail for sending millions of dollars to Hamas. How do you think that would make a Jewish person feel? Probably not great.
Not great, Jillian.
I've never heard of that song.
Israel slaughters. Hold on.
Okay, I mean, it exists.
Our children over and over and over again, and all we do is and Piers, this is really important. It's not that the American people are Islamophobic. It's that American media, mainstream media, and almost all the Israeli supporters are the most bigoted, racist people in the country. They despise Muslims. All they do is smear Muslims 24/7 while pretending that they're concerned about bigotry, but only when it affects their beloved Israel. So they're like, oh my God, I'm so concerned about anti-Semitism. Oh, you said something slightly true, actually very true about Israel, but it hurt my feelings. You're an anti-Semite, fire him, cancel him, etc. This is all thuggery. There's a bunch of pro-Israeli forces inside America. They've taken over our Congress. They've taken over mainstream media. And not only do they try to smear, cancel, fire, and arrest anyone who criticizes Israel, but on top of that, they now demand that you be racist and bigoted against Muslims. And it's so hilarious.
1,000%. I agree with Cenk 1,000%. One of the things that I was thinking about is that the people that are ahead of the curve when it comes to calling things out well before it's popular to do so, folks that have lost their jobs in Hollywood, folks that have lost their jobs in academia because, they were pro-Palestine and anti-Israel or against what was happening in the Middle East. A lot of these people lost their livelihoods. A lot of people lost their friends, were ostracized from their communities. And now, especially in the beginning, especially not in the beginning, but after October 7th, a lot of those people have started to say, I told you so, and rightfully so, because they saw where this was going. And it always makes you wonder, like, there should be a fund, or they should be able to sue whomever that ostracized them or whomever that fired them, because they will go down in the history books for actually being correct. People like Cenk were correct. People like Stephen Miller's wife and other Zionists, 100% wrong. And I guarantee you in the future, these same people will say, I was against it. I was anti-Israel. No, you weren't.
You want to be specific with your work?
Because Mamdani, hold on, let me finish. So let me finish. So now they go, okay, even though Mamdani has never said anything anti-Semitic, nothing against Jews, and even though the majority of Jews, according to polling, are supporting Mamdani, 67% of younger Jewish Americans in New York that's under 45 are supporting Mamdani, we're going to lie anyway, and we're going to say, you know what? He's a dirty Muslim, and you should hate him for supporting Muslims. And that's what almost all of the Israeli supporters are doing, almost all of mainstream media, and that sick, disgusting Andrew Cuomo, who's as bigoted as it gets.
Now, I could not agree with him more. One of the things that bothers me so bad is that even the folks that support Zoran, when they are on these shows, they never bring up the polling. When someone that is against Zoran says he has said anti-Semitic things because he supports Palestinians, which that's crazy in itself to say that. But we actually have data to let us know that the majority of Jewish people under 40 support him. Like, why aren't we bringing it up? I'm very happy that Cenk did.
Why is it that every time someone wants to criticize Mamdani, it immediately comes back to the Jews and the anti-Israel movement instead of actually talking about his viewpoints, which is that
nobody said Jews. You just said it. You always do that. We say Israel, you say Jews. We say Israel is a government. Please don't make it about Jewish Americans. And you come back and go, you have to make it about Jewish Americans. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
Is Israel a Jewish state? Yes or no?
Yeah. First of all, okay, so Saudi Arabia is a Muslim state, and you can criticize it all day long, all day long. There's no special protection.
Because what you're doing is you're decoding language
that
to
calls
attack
themselves
American
a Jewish state or a Muslim
and to say that
state.
we should not be here and we should not be in existence, and that you would be happy for other people like Mamdani to use it.
I want Israel to be safe.
Do you see what she just did there? He is talking about the actions of a government, and somehow she jumps to, oh, you're such a hateful bigot. You don't want any Jews here. You hate all Jews. When did you hear Cenk say that? Cenk said none of that. I liken this to back in the day, and it still happens now, like when conservatives would always say, oh, he's pulling a race card, he's pulling the black card, oh, here we go. Zionists like Stephen Miller's wife, Katie Miller, and other Zionists we've seen, that is exactly what they're doing. They're pulling the Jew card, because if you criticize Israel, all of a sudden, oh, God, no. You hate all Jews, and it's like, where did you get that from? I never said that. Progressives usually don't hate people. They hate the bad guys, if they hate anyone.
Of the
nonsense. You're totally lying. That's very normal for a Miller to be completely and utterly lying. That's not true. We want Israel to be a safe haven for Jews, 1967 borders, but you guys say, no, more Palestinian land. Take Gaza, take the West Bank, take southern Lebanon. Your greed knows no bounds. And by the way, you and your husband are supposed to be working for America, not for Israel. I think you're betraying this country.
All right, Cenk, let Katie.
Piers,
right,
if I could just jump in here on a quick note.
Yeah, Omar, I'll come to you, but let Katie finish her point, then I'll come to you. Katie.
No, Piers, quite frankly, I'm really sick and tired of this racist, bigoted rhetoric that comes from people like you against my husband, against my family, and my children. I am raising Jewish children in this country.
Who brought your children into this? What a weirdo.
Piers, I'm going to be done with this if you're going to allow racist and bigoted attacks against one of your commentators just for the sake that he will not
hang on.
speaking.
Casey, to be clear.
What a whiny little Are you, first of all, like Jake said, who brought your children into this? Why are you weaponizing your children? And then also weaponizing, I guess, her stature in this political realm with who she's married to. It is amazing to me how fragile and how big of a snowflake people like her can be when she is married to one of the most powerful unelected people in our government. And she can't take criticism of another country when her husband is damn near running this one. Just like Cenk said, are you for America or are you for Israel? Seems like you care more about Israel than you do about America.
Casey, to be clear,
he inserted a line that says the Miller's lie. Is that not coded language for therefore we are Jewish? Come on, Piers. Where are you?
What?
Where are you standing?
God, you're so
Casey,
pathetic.
if I can speak.
Everything's your
if I can speak,
anti-Semite. Fire him, cancel him, cancel him, America. Oh my God, Israel's feelings have been hurt.
Yo, see, Jake is the best. This is the type of energy that we need on the panel, no matter who no matter the topic, no matter who we are talking to, predominantly when we are dealing with MAGA folks, because I feel like this is the energy that we need to give them. Don't retreat. Don't lean on empathy when these people are saying such vile things. Laugh at them, make jokes of them, because that's what they are. She just tried to say when Cenk said the Millers, all they do is lie. Her last name is Miller. Her husband's name is Miller. She's trying to make it seem like, and I'm not even sure this may be the case, but I guess Miller is a very common Jewish last name. So she's trying to equate that when he said the Millers always lie, that's coded language that Jews always lie. When he's actually talking about a specific Miller, her and her husband, and not her kids, as she just tried to bring it up.
Why don't you work for this country?
Can we try and get
this country instead of Israel?
Can we try? All right, can we please? All right, let's stop the ad hominem attacks. Let's try and get this back to a more civilized debate, which is actually about the likely incoming mayor of New York. Katie, I was giving you the chance to respond. If you want me to do it for you, I'm happy to do that. But normally in a panel discussion, if someone makes...
You know, Piers,
I agree,
again,
and you shouldn't be interrupted. So, yeah, Katie, let me just ask you, separate, let's not get into ad hominem stuff. It's honestly, I think the viewers are sick of it. Let me just ask you, Katie, what is your fundamental opposition to Mamdani? Because my view of Mamdani is he's very charismatic. He's a skillful politician. He has reined back on some of the more inflammatory things. He undeniably said, the stuff he said about the NYPD would be for some people disqualifying, frankly, in a city like New York. But he's managed to come through that by reining back on some of that stuff. And he is, as Cenk Uygur rightly points out, he has a remarkable popularity with young Jewish New Yorkers. I mean, it is remarkable that for someone who people have branded anti-Semitic, a lot of Jewish New Yorkers simply don't agree. They want to vote for him. So he is what he is. I also think, as Gillian pointed out, that probably a more obvious stick to beat him with politically are his views.
And what cracks me up about that, the Millers, oh Lord, let me not say the Millers, but people like Katie Miller and Stephen Miller, they would call those Jews that are supporting Mamdani, they would call them a self-hating Jew.
Which are pretty socialist. And what is fascinating about this politically looking at the totality and potentially a future general election is if you have a progressive socialist like Mamdani who wins in New York, is that the way the Democratic Party is now going to go? And does that have any chance of winning against what would likely be another MAGA candidate in 2028? So these are big picture issues that will come out of a Mamdani victory. But from your perspective, Katie, what is your fundamental opposition to Mamdani becoming New York mayor?
I want to start off with, do you agree when your guest says that the Millers always lie? Because that's what your guest on your show just said, is that the Millers always lie. And so now I'll continue into saying Mamdani, just as you said here, is a socialist. He is someone who is going to drive New York to the bottom. I'm excited for him to win because he'll prove to every other single large city in our country that what you will see is failure, what you will see is high crime, what you will see is murders, what you will see is a prominent city in our country fall into complete disrepair, and you will see large amounts of capital and tax dollars exit the city immediately, because what people are voting for is their own downfall. When you play into identity politics, as he's done, when you stand behind a podium and your first comment is, oh my gosh, my aunt on the train, instead of talking about all those who lost their lives on 9/11, then you're doing something wrong, Piers. But I will sit here and say that for the reasons in which he is wrong and which he will drive New York into failure is again the same reason why people on your show, instead of arguing the merits, as you say, of his opinions, they're going to sit here and use attacks on my husband and myself instead of debating us on our values and our opinions. It is gross, it is racist, and it is bigoted. And I will not join your show again if you
your values
to that.
Suck. That's what I'm debating.
This is so ridiculous.
Well, Casey, let me just make it clear.
Yo, Cenk is cracking me up like nobody's business. Again, I want every Democrat that is running for office to watch this interview. I want every single political pundit that is on the left to watch this interview. She is trying to feign or gain some level of sympathy while being extremely entitled and extremely privileged whilst making up lies about Zoran. And I love when Cenk said, yeah, you're right. Your morals suck, because they do. She is talking about, I am raising Jewish children in this country. This is probably this is the safest country for Jews. That's one. Two, and by me saying that, I'm not denying the existence of the rise of anti-Semitism at all. Secondly, her husband is responsible for the child separation policy of the first term and also this big push to deport so many people. So how dare she even think that the world should care about her kids that are growing up in major privilege, where we see parents being ripped away from their kids on the side of the interstate because of their hateful policies.
No, Cenk, stay out of this. Katie, let me just respond to that. Katie, normally, when someone makes an ad hominem attack on another panelist, that panelist is on the receiving end, gives it back, right? And you've chosen instead, it seems to me, to want me to do that for you. I don't mind doing that.
Whiny little...
to me, you could easily respond. You're perfectly skilled and capable enough to respond to what Cenk said about you, and you've done that. And you've argued, very passionately why Mamdani would be a New York mayor. I'm not taking sides here. I actually don't like any of the ad hominem attacks of anti-Semitism from certain quarters towards Jewish candidates. But we certainly see this with Mamdani, and it's ugly, and it's horrible, and it shouldn't be. Yeah, you are a guest on my show, and I appreciate you coming on the show, and I like you coming on the show.
And I'm saying two other guests on your show are welcome to participate in these anti-Semitic attacks that is so permeating on CNN and MSNBC.
What? She is still trying to push the fact that Omar and Cenk said something anti-Semitic. Please tell me where they said anything Semitic. Please tell me where they said anything anti-Semitic. This lady is insufferable.
Ridiculous. I'm sorry. I have to jump in here. Somebody criticizing you personally is not an anti-Semitic attack. If somebody says that you are lying, that is not an attack on Jews. That is an attack on you. And just stop hiding behind identity. This is all the snowflake behavior that the right is supposedly criticizing the left for, that you're simply repeating here. Yes, Stephen Miller is a destructive force in American society. That is not an attack on Jews. That is no reference to his identity. This is an attack on him individually, and just deal with the merits of this case. And also when it comes to Mamdani and all the stuff that he said.
Bars. I could not have said it better, Omar. Actually, I did kind of say it earlier, Omar, but whatevs. But no, I agree with that. Trying to say because someone is Jewish and you criticize them means that you are being anti-Semitic. No, I'm criticizing this person that just happens to be Jewish. And again, like I said earlier, and as Omar just said, it is peak snowflake behavior that they can't take any level of criticism and they rather fall back on their identity and say, oh, they're only saying this to me because I'm Jewish. Okay.
Let's go there.
Whatever you want to call him, you have to be clear about the fact.
I'll bring up the Israeli state, right? That's how we got here in the first place. Let's rewind.
Mamdani, and we should be clear about what Mamdani said in relation to policing in New York and Israel.
How we got here was Jillian very perfectly pointed out that we should not use politics to get here. And immediately we went to the state of Israel.
No, I'm sorry. The state of Israel is not identity politics. That is a foreign government that is engaged in genocide and war crimes. And we're allowed to criticize that without you pulling identity politics into this. It is utterly unrelated. And Mamdani, by the way, he was not asked about 9/11 and just randomly decided to drag his aunt into this. He's talking about Islamophobia specifically in a context in which he is under relentless Islamophobic attacks, including by Andrew Cuomo. And in that context, he brought up the story of his aunt and the fear that she felt living in New York City. That is a legitimate part of the conversation. And you pretending that this was comments about him having disregard for the real victims of 9/11 who were actually died on that day is such dishonest smearing against.
Do you agree with Donald Trump having dinner with Nick Fuentes and known anti-Semite some would call a Nazi? Are you okay with that? Do you want to go down the line of white nationalists and white supremacists that Trump and this administration is connected to? Are you okay with that? So we're going to, all right, so I'm going to fast forward a little bit because this is where it actually gets really, really spicy.
A third party is not a response to this.
like I say, you may not like the scale of response.
They murdered children because one of their SS soldiers was killed. And it wasn't even by Hamas. Are you kidding me, Piers? So they're occupying 53% of Gaza right now. So shouldn't they get the hell out of Gaza? So one of their SS soldiers gets killed, and we're supposed to shed a tear for the occupiers? In reality, they murdered 46 children. They murdered 46 children today, Piers. I can't stand the terrorism of Israel.
But you know what, Cenk? When you call the IDF SS soldiers and you compare them directly.
Do you see how this woman is like making smirks and looks like she's about to cry, as if, again, the gall of this woman, the privilege that she has is just disgusting.
To the Nazis.
Yes.
And you know they're Jewish.
Yes.
I'm not Jewish, and
so
I find that horrible.
So no. Israel does, hold on, let me explain. So Israel does not get a pass on committing another genocide because Jewish people suffered the Holocaust. What happened in the Holocaust was disgusting.
You don't get a pass for calling them the SS.
Hold on. So what happened in the Holocaust and all the pogroms were disgusting. That doesn't mean that Israel pretending to represent Jews.
And there we go. I think because Cenk was so loud, he did not hear what she said, and I don't think anyone on this panel heard what she said. Katie Miller, who is married to an extremely powerful, unelected man, some would say the guy that is pushing every single hateful policy of the Trump administration, just threatened Cenk by saying, I hope your citizenship application was filled incorrectly because you'll be just like Ilhan Omar. She is threatening his citizenship because he ate her up in the debate. That is where we are now. That is where we are now. Again, as YouTubers, I know we are going to talk about this, but I need mainstream media on every outlet to be talking about how dangerous this is. Y'all, we in danger, girl. We're in danger. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. It's real out here. Peace.